Hi everyone. Let us continue with the previous topic. In the previous session, I was discussing about the SAC machine architecture and I have started with the SAC XE architecture. In SAC XE architecture, I have mentioned about the two features. One is memory and the other one is registers. And we came to know that there are three different types of data types in SAC-XE, including the floating point values. Moving on to the instruction format. In instruction format, in SAC-XE, there are different types of instruction format we use. Why do we go with a different instruction format? What is the purpose of having different instruction format? That is what we are going to start. As you know that in SAC machine, as you can see in the slide as well, in the top corner, right corner, you can see the SAC instruction format, which has opcode, XBit, and addressing field. Instead of using this instruction format, we move on to the different types of instruction format in SAC. Why there is a change or why this change is required? If you could see the addressing field in SAC format, instruction format, there are 15 bits of address. And as you know that when you move from SAC to SAC-XE, the memory capacity has been extended. So it is from 32,768 bytes to 1 megabytes. It is from 2 power 15 bytes to it is 2 power 20 bytes. That's the reason the 15-bit address field will not be enough to hold the 20-bit address. That is why we need to do some changes in the SAC-XE, especially in the instruction format. So there are two solutions for this problem. The first solution would be using relative addressing. If you could see the slide, there is a relative addressing which represent the format 3. Okay? And the other solution would be extending the address field. So from 15 bits to 20 bits. If you look at the fourth format, you can see in the addressing field, it is changed from 15 bits to 20 bits. Okay? And in SAC-XE, so there are possibilities to use only the registers, which means that without memory references, we can make use of any operation using registers. That is where we can have the format 2 also. Even in the format 1, we don't refer any memory. So there is no memory reference in format 1 and format 2. So these are the reasons why we have different formats in SAC-XE. So in SAC-XE, we have 4 different formats: format 1, format 2, format 3, and format 4. If you look at the format 1, it has only opcode, that is 8 bits opcode. That is a format 1. It is nothing but 1 byte format. Coming to the second format, format 2, which has 2 bytes. So how it is separated is, for opcode it takes 8 bits and we have 2 registers. The first register is R1 register, second register is R2 registers. Each will be having 4 bits. So totally we have 16 bits, nothing but 2 bytes. Coming to the relative addressing, we have format 3. So in the format 3, if you look at the address field, here we don't use address. Instead, we use the displacement. What do you mean by displacement is, so in order to find the actual address, what we are supposed to do is we have to use the displacement. How far it is from the actual address. Okay. So herein we use the displacement concept so that we will be able to get the actual address. So when you change the starting of the program, so whenever you write a program, you would be thinking, you assume that the program is starting at the location so and so. say for example, the address 1000. But at the same time, when you load the same program for execution, at the time of loading, the address need not be the same. There might be some changes in the address. So from 1000, it can be into 2000. So in that case, the data what we refer or the target what we refer, that will also get changed. Whereas when you use relative addressing, the displacement will not change irrespective of the starting address. Whether you change the starting address or not, the displacement is not going to change. That is nothing but the distance. The distance is not going to change. The distance will be constant. That is what exactly we use in the relative addressing. And in relative addressing, for opcode, we use 6 bits, and we have certain bits over here which are N, I, X, B, P, and E. So these are the bits which we use here. What is the need of these bits are? These bits are meant for addressing purpose. So in order to calculate the target address, we use these bits. And if you look at the E bit, that is the last bit, N, I, X, B, P, E. E bit will be deciding whether the instruction is format is falling under either format 3 or format 4. If the E bit is 0, it is a format 3. If E bit is 1, it is a format 4. Okay? And these all bits are used for target address calculation. And coming to the fourth format, we have again the opcode 6 bits, and we have the NIX BPE bits. And if you look at the address field, which has the 20 bits field instead of 15, it is a 20 bit bits. The format 3, which is almost similar to the instruction format in SAC, whereas in format 3 we use displacement. In instruction format in SAC we use the address field. Coming to the next feature, that is addressing mode. As usual, when we use the X bit, the X bit will be deciding the two different types of addressing mode. One is a direct addressing mode, and other one is an index addressing mode. If X equal to 0, it represents direct. If X equal to 1, it represents the indexed. And apart from this, we have the relative addressing mode. There are two different types of relative addressing mode for format 3. One is base relative and other one is a program counter relative addressing mode. If you look at the base relative addressing mode, how do we calculate the target address? So TA is equal to base plus displacement. So the base, which is represented in the brackets B represent base register, the content of the base register plus the displacement. In this case, what about the two bits, that is B and P, will be having B is equal to 1 and P is equal to 0. So when B is 1, then it represents the base relative. By the time P is equal to 0. And coming to the second type, there is a program counter relative addressing mode, wherein B is equal to 0. So when the base register is 0, then P program counter is 1. So in that case, the target address will be calculated as per P is equal to PC plus displacement. The displacement and the in base relative and the program counter varies. So the values of displacement varies between 0 to 4095 in the case of base relative, and whereas in program counter relative addressing mode, the displacement will vary from negative value to positive value, that is minus 2048 to 2047. So in the case of format 3, if the base E and program counter is equal to 0, it represents the direct addressing. And when indexed addressing is used, when the X is equal to 1. So if the X equal to 1, obviously we have to add the X bit with the address. So this we have already seen in the SAC. So the same thing we can use in the SAC XE also. Apart from these types of addressing mode, we have some other addressing modes also to be used in SAC XE. Those are, say for example, if you look at the immediate addressing, wherein the value, that is bit I is equal to 1 and n is equal to 0. When the I represent immediate addressing, if it is equal to 1, then it represents the immediate addressing. In this situation, TA is calculated in place of with respect to operand value. So TA is used as the operand value. There is no memory references. Coming to the second type, I is equal to 0 and n is equal to 1. So in this case, n represents the indirect. So n is equal to 1, which means it is an indirect addressing. So in indirect addressing, how the target address is calculated is it's based on the program counter relative addressing. Only the difference is in direct, we fetch the value from the target address, whereas here we take the value, that is the word at the TA is fetched, then the value in this word is taken as the address of the operand value. So that is how indirectly we take the value. When I is equal to 1 and n is equal to 1, it represents the simple addressing. So TA is taken as the address of the operand value. So indexing cannot be used with either the immediate or the indirect addressing mode, whereas indexing can be used with program counter or the base relative addressing mode. So these are the different types of addressing mode we have. If you look at the previous slide, starting from the direct and indexed, then we have base relative addressing mode, program counter relative addressing mode, direct addressing, then we have the immediate addressing, indirect addressing, then we have the simple addressing. So these are the different types of addressing we have in SAC XC. So especially this bits NIXBPE, which is meant for representing how do we calculate the target address. So this slide, which is used to represent how the instruction format 3 is being framed from the instruction format in SAC. So if you look at the SAC instruction format, so almost similar, the fields are there in the format 3 also. Only the thing is, instead of 8 bits, it became 6 bits for the opcode, and the two bits have become n and I. Similarly, in the addressing field, we have 15 bits in instruction format in SAC, whereas we have only 12 bit for the displacement. Another 3 bits have converted into B, P, E, and E bits. Then X bit will be as it is. So this is how we relate the instruction format in SAC and the format 3 in SAC XC. These are the few examples how the simple addressing, indirect addressing, and immediate addressing is being formed. Okay, so if you look at the simple addressing, the bits NIXPP bits that will be having both the N and I will become 1. Whereas if you look at indirect addressing, in which the N and I will become 1 and 0. Whereas in immediate addressing, N and I will become 0 and 1. So that's how we come to know that how the addressing mode will be decided based on the NIXPP bits. So how to calculate the TA? As we already knew that how we have calculated TA in a direct and indexed addressing. So here in same way in SAC XC, we follow the same formula which is used in the SAC machine: base relative, program counter, direct, and indexed. So base relative TA will be base plus displacement. Program counter TA will be PC plus displacement. If it is a direct addressing, TA is equal to displacement, which is in the format 3, or the address, which is in the format 4. Indexed means TA is equal to TA plus X bit. So for the immediate addressing, TA will be as it is the operand value. In indirect addressing, TA will be taken. First, it will be taking the word from the TA, then it will be considered as the address. Then in that address, what is the value? That will become TA. In the simple addressing, either it is a SAC or SAC XC. If I and N is 0 or 0, then it is SAC. It is looking like a SAC machine. If I is equal to 1 and N is equal to 1, it's an SAC XE machine. It's both the cases simple addressing. Herein, there is an example. How do we calculate the TA? How can we calculate the TA from this example, given example? So herein, we are given with the instruction which is having opcode, NIXP bits and displacement or the address. And how we derive the target address, that is what the which is represented in the column, fifth column. Okay, and we can see the what is the value for PC base register and X. So base register we have a certain value, PC we have certain value, and X register also we are having some values. Let us go with the first example. So in the first example, look at the N and I bits. Okay. So the first line, N and I bits. So both N and I bits are 1. If N and I are 1, then it is representing the simple addressing. It represents the simple addressing. And coming to the E bit represents 0. E bit represents 0. If E bit represents 0, it is according to the format 3. Since it is a format 3 follows relative addressing. Format 3 follows relative addressing. There are two types of relative addressing we have. One is program counter and other one is base relative. Now, look at the B and P bits. B is 0 and P is 1. If P is 1 and B is 0, it follows program counter relative addressing mode. If it follows program counter relative addressing mode, then the TA calculation will be based on TA is equal to PC plus displacement. So what is the value of PC over here? PC is equal to 003 000. That is the PC value. And what is the value of displacement? Here the displacement will be 0110, then 0 zeros. So 0110, which represents 6 followed by 0 and 0. So PC values 3000, then displacement values 600. If you add these two, we will be getting the target address as 3600. This is your target address. And since we need to fetch the value from the target address, what is the value in the address 3600 that we can see in this slide? So this slide shows the memory location. In the address, the contents are stored. Okay, so if you look at the address 3600, the value is nothing but 103000. So now if you see the content, the value loaded into the register A is nothing but 103000. This is how we derive the target address and how can we fetch the value from that particular address. Okay, so this is what the calculation of target address. Similar to this, we can do the same calculation for all the remaining procedures based on the bits value. It keeps changing whether it is a program counter or a base relative, or it is a immediate addressing or indirect addressing, or it is a direct addressing. So that will be decided. Say for example, if you look at the last line, okay, if you look at the last line, that is an example in the last line, we have the bits NIXPP bits which will be 1 and 1 for n and I. As you know already, if n and I are 1 and 1, it is a simple addressing. And coming to the E bit, in the last line, E bit, which has the value 1. If it is 1, then it follows the format 4. When it is a format 4, it follows direct addressing. It follows direct addressing. In direct addressing, the formula to calculate TA is equal to address. So in address field, whatever we have, that will become our TA. Okay, that is target address. So what is there in the address field? We have 4 zeros, then 1100, then we have 0011, then we have 40 again, then 0011. So these are the address field. Okay, now if you convert this value to the hexadecimal format, because address is represented in the hexadecimal format, 1100 that will become C, then 0011 that will become 3, then 4 zeros are same as it is 0, then 0011 will become 3. So if you look at the target address in the last line, C303, that is your target address. And now if you look at the value in the target address, which is mentioned in the next slide. So value in the target address is C303, the values 003030. That is what exactly you can see in the value field. Okay, so this is for the direct addressing. So we have seen simple addressing with relative also. We have seen simple addressing with the direct addressing also. So the remaining calculation you can try by following the formulas which is given in the previous slides. Moving on to the next feature, that is instruction set. So as we have seen the instruction set in SAC, similar to that we are having in SAC XC also. A few changes we can have in the SAC XC as we involve B registers, as we involve floating point register. That is where we can find few changes in the SAC XC. If you look at the load and store registers, as usual, we have LDA, LDX, ST, and STX. Apart from that, we have LDB and STB. As you know that the B register is meant for base. And coming to the integer arithmetic operations, so we can involve floating points. That is how you can find, in addition to add, we have add F, subtraction F, multiplication F also there. Then apart from that, we have add R, SUBR, MULR, DIVR. So what is this R which represent that? In place of memory, we can make use of the registers. So without memory reference, we can have with the registers. The arithmetic operations can be performed between the registers without involving the memory. That is where this add or sub or is used, and add F, which involves the floating point arithmetic operations. And we have the comparison registers, then we have the conditional jump instructions, we have the subroutine linkage, which are all similar to SAC. Apart from that, we have two more instruction set. One is RMO and SVC. RMO is meant for register movement, and SVC is meant for supervisor call, which is basically used to generate the interrupt. So these are the instruction set we have in the SAC XC machine architecture. Moving on to the input and output operation. Herein we have again similar to SAC, the three instructions we use, TD, RD and WD. Apart from this, we have IO channels. While CPU is executing the instructions, so in order to perform IO, we can use the IO channels. So for which we follow the three instructions. One is SIO, that is used to start the operation of IO channel, test the operation, then halt or stop the operation of the IO channel. So in order to handle this IO, we use some mechanisms which are polling IO, then interrupt driven IO, then direct memory access IO. So these are the mechanism or strategies we use with respect to the IO channels. So these are the different types, different features in SAC XC architecture. So if you look at back, have a recap on SAC XC architecture. In SAC XC, we have the memory, which is having the memory capacity 2 for 20 bytes, which is extended memory, we can say, or larger memories, we can say, compared to SAC machine. With respect to registers, totally 9 registers are used in SAC XC machine, including the BSTF, and we have data formats, including the floating points. There are 3 different data formats we are using. And coming to the instruction formats, there are 4 instruction formats we use in the SAC XC. Compared to the SAC, here we use the 4 different formats. And coming to the instruction set, we have whatever the instruction set we use in SAC. Apart from that, we use the instruction set which is handling floating point numbers, and also it is handling the registers. And we have extra 2 instruction set like RMO and SVC we have in the SAC. Apart from that, we have the addressing modes. We have more number of addressing modes in SAC. Say it is relative addressing, program counter, base relative, direct, indexed, immediate addressing, indirect addressing, simple addressing. So all these different types of addressing we use in the SAC. Coming to the input and output operations, similar to IO device, we have the same kind of instructions we have. And apart from that, IO channel can be used. So for IO channels, we use again the 3 different sets of instructions in order to perform the input and output operations. So this is what about the whole about the SAC XC instructions, SAC XC machine architecture. So we have some SAC XC instruction set which is there in the slide. You can see there are plenty of instruction set we have in the SAC XC, SAC as well as SAC XC format. These are the some of the programs which is for your references. So this is a summary about the induction part in the first module. We have discussed about the definition of system software, what is the need of system software, what are the different types of system software we had, and we were discussing about what is the difference between system software and the application software, and also we understood that the relationship between the machine architecture and the system software, and we have discussed 2 different types of machine architecture. One is SAC and other one is a SAC. So with respect to these 2 machine architecture, I have mentioned about the different features like memory, registers, instruction format, data format, addressing mode, and finally the input and output operations. Let us move on to the next part in the module 1 is assembler. Okay. In this, we are going to discuss about some of the topics like induction, the functions, and machine-dependent assembler features. So these are the 3 concepts we are going to discuss in this particular part in assembler. So firstly, we'll be discussing about what is assembler. So what are the different functions of the assembler? What is the role in assembler when you run a program? Okay, so when you are trying to run any application, how important the assembler is, or what is the role of assembler in the program execution is given in the slide. As you can see that we have the source program. So the source program which is written in the assembly language, we use the assembly language, either the SAC machine or the SAC machine or other kind of machine architecture. Also, you can use it to create the assembly language program that we call it as a source program. So the source program is given to the assembler. In turn, the assembler will create the object code. So the object code is given to the linker. Then it creates the executable code that will be given to the loader. So further, it loads the program and it starts the execution. So this is what the program lifecycle, the same which is given in this diagram also. So the source file, if you look at the diagram, the step 1 would be creating the source file. So using text editor. So text editor is one of the system software using which you are able to create the source file. In the step 2, the assembler is called. The source file is given to the assembler. So assembler will generate the object file. So with the object file, it will generate the listing file also. Then the object file will be given to the linker. That is a step 3. So step 3, the linker will be called, which links the file with the library file. So that is where it does the mapping. Then it creates the executable file, which will be given to the loader, which is there in the step 4. Then the loader will be executing the program and gives the output. In some situation, if suppose the source program is modified, if we try to do any modification in the source program, again the step 2 till the step 4, the process has to be repeated. Okay, so this entire slide is giving you an overview of how the assemble, link, and execute cycle is happening when you run a program. Moving on to the functions of assembler, we have the fundamental functions of the assembler. The first one is basically the assembler will be converting the source into object program. During this conversion process, there are certain functions to be carried out, for which it follows the two fundamental functions. One is translating mnemonic to their machine equivalent. Second is assigning machine address to the symbolic label. Okay? So these are the two functions which needs to be carried out when the assembler converts source program into object program. So when you use the assembler, we have certain assembly directives. We have, say, for example, start, end, byte, word, reserve byte, and reserve word. Apart from that, we have certain instructions which are called as pseudo instructions. What do you mean by pseudo instructions? When you convert source instructions into object code, some of the instructions will not be converted into machine equivalent or machine code. Those instructions are called as the pseudo instructions. The pseudo instructions are instructions which need not be or which cannot be translated into machine instructions. Then what is the need of having the pseudo instructions? In order to give information to the assembler, we use pseudo instructions in our program. We have certain instructions like, say, for example, start, end, reserve byte, reserve word. These are called as the pseudo instructions. These instructions, these assembly directives, which are meant for providing information to the assembly. So what are these? That is what exactly we are going to discuss now. When you have these functions of the basic assembler, already have told you about the two fundamental functions. Okay? So converting mnemonic into machine equivalent and assigning address to the symbols. Apart from that, we have some more other functions also need to be carried out. Those are choose the proper instruction format and addressing mode. That is one function, and constants will be converted into numbers. Then finally, the assembler creates object file and the listing file. So few more functions are carried out in the basic assembler. Those are choose the proper instruction format and addressing mode, and the constant will be converted into numbers. So these functions are carried out in the basic assembler. So this slide shows the assembly language program, and wherein we have used some of the assembly directives like start, end, reserve byte, reserve word, word and byte. So what are these, and what for we have this program, how the conversion is taking place, that we will discuss in the next session.